Welcome into the Banter, everybody. I'm back. It's been like 3 weeks in my absence. The wheel finally spared me. There were less names on the wheel, like 2 less names. Well, I guess 1 less because we did add Jason, who is with us today for the first time. And then Hunter is coming to us from the 3rd chair today.
Yeah, I'm Connor today.
Yeah.
This is fun being able to switch.
Yeah, you have all the power, but you need to switch back to me because we got to tell everybody about our sponsor today. Today's show is brought to you by Manscaped. Your body deserves products that are not only skin safe, but made with safe ingredients. That's where Manscaped's Platinum package comes in. From razors to shower care, this package goes above the gold standard for your body hair. So treat yourself to the world's finest toys at manscaped.com and use our code BANTER20 for 20% off plus free shipping. The Manscaped Platinum Package 4.0 is the one-stop shop for the man who deserves it all. They designed this package to allow you to fully align your entire hygiene routine with elite products. Inside this Platinum Package, you'll find their Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, ultra premium body wash, ultra premium 2-in-1 shampoo plus conditioner. Love that stuff. Ultra premium deodorant, crop preserver, anti-chafing ball deodorant, crop reviver ball spray toner, anti-chafing boxers, and the shed travel bag to hold your goods while traveling. All that stuff. The Lawnmower 4.0 body trimmer and Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer feature proprietary skin-safe technology to protect all your delicate parts and holes. Both are waterproof so you can shave with less mess. The Platinum Package 4.0 covers all bases from head to toe, so you can get 20% off plus free shipping with the code BANTER20 at manscaped.com. It's 20% off plus free shipping at manscaped.com with BANTER20 as your code. Use the Platinum Package because the gold standard is no longer good enough.
Boom.
Dang. I wonder if they're going to start changing their color scheme to platinum and black.
Maybe.
My goodness, things are changing.
I've not tried the Manscaped stuff. I've tried is the beard stuff because I got some from you guys. Love it every day. The beard conditioner. I know you guys don't understand how that feels, but
I don't.
The beard
conditioner.
wish.
Yeah, I wish I could.
But when I started growing the beard, I was trying the different oils and balms that are out there, and then when we got a sample of it here, it's changed everything.
I'll tell you what. One of these days, I'm just going to, Hunter, we just need to make a pact one of these days. I don't think we'd ever actually do it, but that we'll just grow out our facial hair as long as we can bear it.
Here's a problem with mine is I'll show the camera. I got right underneath, so I busted my chin when I was a kid, and I had to get like 7 or 8 stitches.
Yeah.
And I have a scar in there, but then no hair grows underneath.
That's the least of your problems, dude.
Related.
It'll cover it as it goes.
My thing is, I get pretty good facial hair all the way down my sideburns, all the way underneath my chin, even like on my chin and my mustache. All of that comes in pretty great. It just doesn't go much higher than that. And I
have the same thing.
It's starting to, there is hair there, and I have a feeling by the time I'm 35, I'll have a beard. But if I were to grow it really long, I mean, I would look raggedy. It would be
I have
something.
A chin strap, not by choice.
Yeah, same. And it's it can only get to a certain point where you're now I just look like I live in a trailer. Yeah. It gets to that point.
Yeah.
The problem I'm having now is you can kind of see it. It kind of goes the curve of my chin sometimes. So it's this weird little thing going on, and it's
you're going the whole year though.
Oh right? Yeah, I have not shaved since June 10th
or cut your hair
last year. So my last day in uniform is the last day I shaved. So it's been over a year, and I haven't cut my hair since the 2nd week of May. So I want I joke with my wife. I want rock star hair. Kidding, 3 years. 80s rock star hair, not poofy 80s rock star hair, but the length of 80s rock star hair, just to have it for once.
Just once, yeah.
Just once. So you're going to go that long?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
100%.
I thought you were getting to the end of the year and being get this thing out of here.
No,
okay.
It's going to continue to go. I'm even messing around. You guys have seen, I wear the bandana at the warehouse because I don't like hats that much, even though I have them. But the ponytail's coming pretty soon. I was testing.
Oh, that's a good point.
To have a ponytail, so that will be what was it? Nate Perkins.
That's kind of a game changer, honestly.
That would definitely be me. So.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a game changer in the hair game because that gets it out of your face and you don't have to wear anything else.
Trevor tried the flow for a little bit.
Well, see, my issue with my hair, and I have very unique hair, and I think I actually passed it on to my son. We're kind of observing that, is on top of my head, and this didn't kick in for me until later in life for some reason, but on top of my head, I have pretty straight to maybe slightly wavy, light blonde hair, very light. I mean, it was transparent when I was a kid. And then on the sides of my head, just the sides, it's a darker, curlier hair. So what happens is
when Trevor first started working here, I thought he dyed his hair.
Yeah, it's a significantly different color. Hard to tell when it's as short as it is now, but when I grew out my hair, everything grew out fine except the sides wouldn't grow out. So I basically just grow into a mullet, and it's tragic. And it's a relationship with my hair that I really battled for a long time, and then I decided like I'm never gonna like my hair unless I keep the sides short enough to where they don't. And it doesn't take long. Like when we just shaved this for the video, we got it down to like a number 2. And it's already grown out to where like it's starting to do things, and I'm like, holy cow, it can't be stopped.
It's funny you talking about your hair being curly because my hair is super crazy curly. Like even last night, I took a shower and my wife lets me like air dry it every once in a while because it's Shirley Temple curls. Like it is comical.
Wow.
How curly the hair is. So you guys won't see it because when I wear the hat during the day, it kind of forces it to straighten out a little bit. So by the end of the day, it's kind of straighter. But if I don't do that, and I don't like that.
Growing out the hair is a tough battle. Silas when he first came here, he had like the man bun. He had like all the hair, and then he cut it, and then he got back to the flow, and then he cut it again. He's got good hair though.
I can't grow my hair out.
Your hair hasn't been. I haven't seen your hair past like a pretty short length.
I'm back to buzzing it right now.
Yeah.
But
don't ever give up.
The hairstyle I went to that I think I'm gonna stick with is buzz the tops. The top's like a 3 or a 4, and
you're kind of fading
fade
it.
The sides.
Yeah, and guess what? That's easy.
The Travis Kelce. Then I wake up and I don't have to do anything.
Yeah,
no matter what, no matter how I sleep, I just wake up and go.
That's the best. I like when my hair is short enough that even if it is like if your hair even has a little bit of length and you sleep on it and it's sticking up a little bit, if it's just shorter hair, it just doesn't look bad. It's like, oh yeah, his hair's a little tousled. You know, I kind of got over. I did it like twice, like try to kind of grow my hair out, and I was like, it was like, okay, fool me once, shame on me, or you fool me twice, shame on me, kind of situation. Like I ran into this problem again.
Well, yeah, like so I was in the Air Force for 24 years. The last 15 years, I cut my own hair every single time, and it was just with clippers, usually on a 2 or 3. But I didn't even fade it. I just went all one thing.
Hey,
but life was so easy; it didn't matter.
Well, that's
sleeping in after a workout, my hair always looked the same. So it was fantastic.
That's what right now. I just buzzed my head on technically I used just like at the Manscaped. To go back to their ad.
I wish I had that, by the way, when I was cutting my hair. Because the ability to do that.
I just put it on like
that
3 or 5
and that thing goes to town.
Yeah.
That's a good trimmer. I honestly, I just hope I can get a good beard in before I go bald. And I say that, and like both of my grandfathers have amazing heads of hair at age 70. My dad has thinned out a lot. They say it skips a generation, so maybe I'll hang on. I don't think I'm going to. I have a suspicion I'm going to go bald, and that's okay.
Are you just willing it into existence? Like you obviously don't want it, but are you just willing?
Listen. I wear hats every day. Who was the dude? Perfect guy, Garrett. He went bald, and guess what? You barely ever remember because he wears hats all the time. I don't really think I care that much. My wife swears up and down she doesn't care. We'll see about that. But
she's not
what I do know,
if she does care, you won't know.
Exactly. What I do know is by the time I go bald, I need to have some amount of decent facial hair because that immediately makes up for it. And B, I need to get in shape.
That also fixes
because that also helps a lot. My father-in-law, he was like, by the time that guy went bald, by the time I knew him as a bald man, he was in Iron Man shape and he had a good beard. So it was like that really cuts into it a bit. What I do know is by the time my hair starts getting iffy. Like if I start getting horseshoe situation, see you later. It's gone. You just got to commit.
Yeah, I think I'd be that way as well. I think it'd be gone.
Just let me get to age like I don't know, 35 at least. Like it's one thing. It's one thing when you go bald and you've already got kids like in college. But man, I can't be going bald. I can't be
it's kind of an in look right now though. Like the bald, but you do need a beard. The beard.
You need a beard, yeah.
Or at least you have. I think if you let your facial hair go a little more, you could do it because you have enough facial hair.
I still haven't tried putting like Connor's been doing like the beard roller thing and stuff, and I don't know how much I believe in that. He's starting to kind of like believe in it a little bit. The beard rollers, like the idea behind them, I can kind of get behind that. Like you're trying to stimulate hair follicles. That seems pretty basic science to me.
Makes sense.
And like, cause like I grow hair on everywhere that I want to have facial hair. There's not like it's bald there. So I do feel like if I could just kickstart it. I've also seen people who will be posting online about like supplements they're taking for like facial hair and hair growth, and then like their back will get covered in hair.
That's true.
Like, well, I have to shave my back every other week, but other than that, we're doing great.
No, I don't think I want a beard. I think I would like it to be a little more filled.
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't want like
stubble.
A long beard. I don't think. I just want full, like, even just full stubble.
Yeah.
Or like, I just want it to like look like, oh, that guy could grow a beard.
So the weekend of the Battle for Bedford, I accidentally shaved my face, and how I did it was I was trying to just clean up my neck, and it just
I remember
slid up too much, just went too high.
And then you
Not
just
Battle for Bedford, sorry, Commonwealth Games. Like this is like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I remember.
And it just went up too much, and I was like, well, crap. Now I don't have an option. I got to
go for it. I've been there.
I walked out of the bathroom. My wife didn't know. I just was going in, and I walked out.
Look young.
Clean shaven. And she was like, never do that again. And I was like, I didn't mean to. She goes, I don't care. Don't do it again. So I'm stuck here.
Every time I trim because it's getting into crazy old man beard. So I'm trying to keep it a little thin. And
crazy
I was
old
watching
man beard.
when I was watching me and Brad's video on Robbie's channel, and I was like, oh my gosh, it was way too wide.
Yeah.
So, but every time I trim the sides, I'm always very,
Scared.
very nervous because one wrong.
And that's
It's
it.
terrifying.
My long term, I'm not gonna have the long beard forever. I'm just doing it because I can.
Yeah.
But eventually it'll be cut down, and I'll just do different things. Because even when I was in the Air Force, if I was off for a day or a month, I didn't shave that entire time, or I would trim it down to usually a goatee. And when my wife and I met and we started dating, I had about a 3-inch long just a goatee, nothing else.
I think you should go.
So she's used to it.
I think you should go handlebars.
It did. When I used to do it, it didn't connect well, but now that I've let it grow, I think
Yeah.
it's done well. So it will
yeah.
come that way, and eventually do a handlebars, then a Fu Manchu, then just mess around with
Yes.
it. That's probably next year sometime, so I want to get this to a certain length, but it eventually will get to where I just kind of mess around with it.
Growing up, one of my best friend's dads, he looked like he just had a normal goatee, but he was like a Harley Davidson guy, loved riding motorcycles and stuff. And so I always thought he just had a goatee. And then one day he came back on his bike, and the thing was down to almost his belly button. And I was like, what? It just blew my mind. And so I asked him, he goes, no, every day, like when I go to work, he rolled it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And rolled it behind.
Yeah,
so it
that's a
looked like
thing.
just a goatee. But then when he like wanted to ride his bike, he could just
That's
let
a
it
thing.
go.
Yeah, that is a thing.
It blew my mind.
Apparently, the firefighter company around here, they all have Fu Manchus. That's like
There is one, yeah.
Yeah, that's like a thing
That's a
they do.
firefighter thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what'll happen or how long it'll take me.
Part of me wants to get long enough so I can have like the cool Viking like braid in it.
That would be
now we're talking
something.
about, so at least I could braid it.
You got to go real long.
I know
for that,
for it to
though.
be a good braid, it's got to be really long. So.
Yeah, that's a pretty intense
We actually,
one.
for my daughter's wedding, talking about braid, we actually did a reverse braid, like a French braid in my hair. And had like a little bit. I mean, it was a month and a half ago, so the ponytail wasn't quite there. But I was trying to figure out how to do our hair because we went full. I don't know if we even told you guys that we went full theme. So my daughter had a themed wedding. So like I had a little like. We made swords. We painted swords. We carried that. We went down the aisle, so it was really cool. So we had like really thematic hair, and so we actually did a reverse braid into the hair as well, and a little ponytail wrapped around leather in the back. So
I saw Brad did a vlog for Patreon,
right?
And he had a clip of y'all's like dance.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I got a peek into it.
Yeah.
That was it.
What did you make the swords out of?
So you can just online you can get these training swords that are all black.
Okay.
And they're really meant to be
Paint
like
them up.
training swords, and then we just painted them.
There you go.
My son, we had a wood sword that my older son painted for him, and then Ryder, my youngest son, we both got them and just painted them. And we bought a lot of stuff. Amazon, thankfully, has a lot of cheap cosplay gear, so the cosplay gear was the sheath and holding everything else. So,
That makes sense.
So it was fun. So
Yeah.
Speaking of training, it made me think back. Last night, Liz and I got in bed, and it was like 7 o'clock. I was exhausted. I don't know why. And I was like, let's just go to bed when Luke goes to bed. So Luke went to bed. We got in bed, and we turned on TV. Nothing's on TV. Nothing's ever on TV. TV sucks.
TV sucks.
We went to Netflix, and as soon as I got on Netflix, they have like the untold sports documentaries. So the only one, I haven't seen the Johnny Football one, but that one's apparently really good. The next one they did is Jake Paul. And I was like, well, this will be interesting because I don't like Jake Paul at all. I can't stand the kid. I really, really don't like Jake Paul. But I watch all of his fights because I want to see him get knocked out. And so I clicked on it, and it was basically just the story of Jake Paul, and it followed him. You know, it kind of showed a little bit of like the YouTube side, but was mainly following him leading up to the Tommy Fury fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched it, and I still don't like him.
Yeah.
Well, it will not make you like him. But the kid's a genius. Like, you get a behind-the-scenes look, and so much of the stuff that it seems like he is just being an idiot, rambling to the camera, you could see how pre-planned it was. And, like, all of it, his whole fighting schedule, everything, like, every social clip he puts out was, like, premeditated. Like his attacks at Dana White was.
Well, how much is that him versus the people in his ear though?
Well, so
those guys get surrounded with really smart people.
Two people. It seemed like he is like the marketing guy, which means like the actual execution and what he's doing to piss people off to get them to take fights is all him.
Yeah.
Then the business guy, he hired the old CFO of UFC to start Most Valuable Promotions with him. So he's a business partner with the old CFO of UFC. And they're the ones doing it, doing this. And so he's the one who like knew the business of fighting. And basically, what I didn't understand, and Logan Paul, like early in the show, goes, basically Jake Paul fooled all of you into thinking he's a boxer. He's not. He's a marketer that happens to be okay at boxing. And then they went into a little bit of like the history of boxing and how basically boxing, there was the promoters, which I didn't know much about boxing, but it makes sense. There was the promoters that were essentially taking some money to sell you the show that was boxing. So like one of the big ones was Don King, which I had heard that name before. And I'd heard him as a marketer, but now I understand he's a boxing promoter, which is basically the same thing. Right. And essentially the whole business model of this Most Valuable Promotions is Jake Paul is the boxer and promoter of the fight. So it's his responsibility in it to get everyone ticked off. And he was basically talking and he was saying like, I've been hated my whole life. True statement. Good reasons. On YouTube, though, when you're hated, you lose brand deals, you lose money, you get demonetized, all of this. He's like, in boxing, you want to be the villain. In boxing, when you're hated, you get all the attention, you get all the brand deals, you get all the money.
Well, and people are going to watch it, love it or hate you because they want to see you lose.
Yeah. So I like his whole thing was like he started off, obviously, this all stemmed from that he fought like Deji in KSI, that fight. That stemmed it in him as he started to realize how much money he could make in boxing. And then from there, he like fought, I think Gibb might have been the next one, just another YouTuber. Yeah. And then he went to like Nate Robinson and he was always like listening to his haters and everyone who was saying like, oh, well, he didn't fight an athlete. So he fought Nate Robinson, cherry picked athletes to make sure he could win.
Right. Yeah.
Fought him. And then obviously he started coming after the entire UFC was his next thing. Because he felt like that was a good next step up. And he knew by attacking Dana White, because that's what Ariel Helwani, who is a UFC journalist. Well, really, he's a boxing journalist, too, it seemed in there. But I only knew him as a UFC journalist. He was giving commentary on the whole thing throughout this whole documentary. And he was like, what was kind of frustrating to watch was it was obvious he was attacking Dana White and every big hitter in UFC because he wanted to get all of them talking about him for free. Yeah. And it worked. Right. He's like, that every press conference was about Jake Paul. Every fighter was talking about Jake Paul. He's like, it worked so well. And then he went and fought Ben Askren, who again was a perfect opponent because he's not really a striker. So Jake Paul should be able to beat him if he knows how to box. But he's beloved in the UFC community, and everyone was going to buy it to watch. Yeah. Then he went to Tyron Woodley twice. And it just went through like his whole story. And I always just thought he was an idiot that talked himself into situations and just got lucky. And it was like just showing behind the scenes and like different meetings. And you could see like everything he was doing that seemed like he was just rambling and was just pointless stuff was all pre-planned. Like the kid's a marketing genius. You will not like him anymore after watching it, but you will have a newfound respect, I feel like.
Yeah, no, the influencer boxing thing was like, I think they just kind of struck accidental gold a little bit when they started that. Because pay-per-view money is just different. And like it
they
attracts
were selling like 50. I think he sold like what was it? It was he sold 1.3 million pay-per-view buys for I think it was a Tyron Woodley fight at $50 a piece.
The thing about the fighting stuff as a sport, and like when you talk about like UFC and boxing, there are only so many names that get really big in those communities these days. Like especially in boxing. I mean, people know like Tyson Fury, and like the champs. And UFC though, like you every once in a while have, and people knew Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Those were the two big ones for a while. But in UFC, like you have a lot of champions right now. But there are names I could mention to you as somebody who knows UFC a bit that you would have no idea who they are. But then every once in a while you get a McGregor or you get a Ronda Rousey, and everybody loves consuming a fight like that because it's such a polarizing thing. We're going to watch these two people fight. And when you get two names that people also know, it makes it all the more interesting. So like you will always, I feel like, be able to sell a fight between two people that people know that are big names to people outside of that audience. Because when I was a freshman in college and that Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather fight went up, that was like the big one that I remember happening first before any of these super fights or influencer fights. I bought that fight for like $90 for my hall to come watch it in my room. And I had never even watched a boxing match or a UFC match probably in my entire life. But it just like brings in so many outside people. Then there was the KSI Logan Paul YouTube boxing thing. I bought that one too.
I didn't watch that one
because I just like
I didn't know who KSI was at the time.
I did. I watched him on YouTube.
But when it got to when Jake Paul started running his mouth, like I was watching it and basically everything he was talking about in the marketing, I was like, I felt susceptible to all of it.
Yeah, dude.
His whole point was he wanted to be the heel. Like he wanted,
right.
And what was fascinating to me too was Mike Tyson was all throughout this documentary talking about it. And the old boxing guard obviously hates Jake Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tyson loves him. Because he was like, he was basically talking.
He's good for boxing, realistically.
Mike Tyson was like, people don't like him, but this kid single-handedly has saved boxing. Like, he has saved our sport.
Boxing's coming back.
That's disgusting.
Yeah.
It's gross, but it's true.
It's what it comes to sometimes where it's, like people weren't really, boxing is not what it used to be. And I think part of that also has to do with the fact that UFC exists.
No, yeah, UFC totally took it.
Because UFC is pretty big these days. So, but that's what I'm waiting for personally. Is I'm waiting for these influencers to get into UFC. None of them. I know one of them's doing bare knuckle boxing, and like that's probably even slightly crazier. But I want to see one of these guys hop into the octagon, and I don't even care.
That's gonna happen.
I don't even care if they do it with like I don't need to see Jake Paul get into the octagon with Francis Ngannou and get crushed, or I don't need to see him get in with an actual current fighter. I just want to see two influencers get in the octagon together. I think that's realistic. Yeah. Like imagine
I could see because Logan and Jake both have wrestling backgrounds.
If you like that is where I want to see somebody get their arm snapped. Like
it was also
it would just be so sloppy though.
I was trying to think what was the other. Oh, that was the other thing is the Anderson Silva fight. So Jake was coming after Dana White in the UFC, and Dana was just falling into his trap, just constantly talking about him and was like going off on media and like just kept coming back after Jake Paul because Jake is really good at just getting under people's skin.
Funny thing is though, like as much as it's a trap, it's also like Dana White also knows he's going to get interaction too. Like it's like Jake Paul knows that, okay, if I can get Dana White talking, that's going to help get some more audience. But Dana White also knows if I talk, I'm going to get interaction because Jake Paul's a hot topic. So it is like it's kind of goes both ways.
It's a lose-lose / win-win.
Yeah.
It's an interesting one. But like the whole Anderson Silva fight, apparently I'm not in the know. I just know the big names. Like I know Anderson Silva, I knew Tyron Woodley, I knew Ben Askren. I obviously knew Nate Robinson. So like when you see that, and Nate Diaz, he just freaking fought him. When you see those titles come up, I know that name. So,
no, they were definitely targeting names.
And I don't like Jake Paul, so I want to watch someone that I think is going to kill Jake Paul in the ring do it.
Yeah, they did.
The Anderson Silva one came because Dana White literally was like, I don't get why he keeps picking on people that like he knows he's going to win. He's cherry picking. Like he's not going to go after a real killer. Like if he went, he's like, for instance, there's no chance Jake Paul would ever fight Anderson Silva. He's like, that would make no sense. Anderson Silva would rip him limb from limb. The kid's too smart. He wouldn't do it. And then the next video Jake Paul made was Dana, who do you think I am? And then he had a contract with Anderson Silva.
Yeah, I'm not.
How much of that is Dana White getting some
I was gonna say,
right.
I'm not convinced that Dana White is. He's definitely in on that. There's no way he's not, because Dana White's a pretty smart business guy.
I wonder if Dana White, because there's been a lot of critique of the UFC from fighter pay and all this stuff.
Yeah, dude.
I wonder if Dana White owned part of Anderson Silva's name, image, likeness.
Maybe.
And was just like, hey, if I throw this name out there, Jake Paul's gonna bite, and then I get some kickback.
Yeah, dude. UFC pays when you're low on the totem pole, you might make like $10K a fight to go out there and just get destroyed. Like, wow. Oh, you just got your arm snapped in half, and then like whoever wins fight of the night of the entire night gets a $50K bonus, and so you'll hear them like go up to the mic after a fight and be like, 50 G's, Dana. Like, I need that 50 G's. Come on, that was fight of the night. Like, they're asking him for the bonus. It's pretty crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So here's a question that was posed on the mailbag. I think last week. So I know Jason wasn't there. You weren't there. I don't think either, Trevor.
Okay.
But it's pertinent to exactly what we're talking about right now. Someone asked us, would you rather talk like Mike Tyson for the rest of your life or get in the ring with him once?
Oh, gosh.
I would get in the ring with him once and just take that hit really quick, be in the hospital for a few weeks. Depends, I got good insurance.
It depends what the context is, right? Because if it's like I got to get in the ring with him for a real boxing match, I'm going to put my arms up. I'm going to take one hit. Yep. I'm going down, and that's
it's a boxing match.
Yeah, I'm doing that.
That's what
because he's not going to permanently damage me. Now, if they're telling me you got to go till you get knocked out, it's like going to be a little scarier.
Well, I think one punch would knock me out.
If you get your hands up, I mean, it also depends.
Let's be clear. I would want one punch to knock me out.
Yeah, well,
I don't want to just.
Well, no, but you can get knocked out. All you gotta do is fall to the ground. You can take it. I mean, realistically, you don't have to get hit at all. You can just go to the ground.
Okay, well, we'll say like you have to attempt to win would be the only stipulation. So like you can't just dive.
Yeah, well, that would be. I would still have to do it. I think because I don't want to have to talk with that lisp or whatever. But
because it works for him. Because he's a killer.
He's Mike Tyson.
That's
dude.
what I'm saying. It wouldn't work for me.
I don't know if you've seen, but that guy still is in pretty good shape.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I would just get knocked out and just deal with that for a week or two, maybe 3 weeks. I don't know, and then just go back to my life.
Now, a spin on that question is, and we have these questions at our house, is so would you be willing to talk like him for the rest of your life if you could have the money he's earned in his career?
Yes.
Like hundreds of millions, would you talk like him the rest of your life to have that kind of money? I would, yeah.
Probably, yeah, because that's just a talk. Like, it doesn't change.
My wife could get used to that, and my kids could get used to that.
His lisp isn't
You also
that
don't
bad.
have to talk.
For a new house.
It's not that bad. Like, yeah, and at that point, nobody's going to make fun of you. You're rich.
Yeah.
He's made a lot of money. Have you ever seen, like, there's, like, you can watch, like, his first fight when he got out of prison or whatever, and all he did the whole time he was in jail was just work out, so he's just super cut, and it's, like, the scariest person you've ever seen in your life. It's absolutely horrifying. My goodness.
Combat sports is just horrifying.
Yeah, I don't actually. Y'all talked about UFC. It's a blind spot to me. Even boxing, even in my younger days when I followed all sports, boxing was just never a thing.
I don't.
Well, because I had to pay for it, and I'm super cheap. So I
never
was
got
not about to pay for those.
I never got into it until college. My buddy was really into UFC, and it is really fun. The thing about UFC that makes it really fun is there is that rush of like the stakes are so high and you might lose in 20 seconds. Yeah. So that's fun. But what really makes it good is the promoting side and the way that UFC, like they make it their goal to build these stories. They'll do entire YouTube series like leading up to fights, building these behind the scenes stories of why this fight is so important for this person and how much they hate each other. And they'll build it up so much that like you are invested in these fights. And so that makes it fun. And it's also a really good time to like, it's Saturday, let's watch the fights.
Right.
Like, but the only problem is like the last one comes on
so
at like
late.
midnight.
Yeah.
So in college that was whatever, but nowadays like
UFC.
I don't really care.
Of the right UFC card, I'll go over. My brother-in-law buys most of them. I'll go over and watch it there because like if 6 of us go over there, we all Venmo them like $10 and that's it. That's fine. But it has to be the right card.
Yeah.
Like there's this UFC fight every weekend.
Just about.
I have no idea what's going on week to week.
They only do like the main UFC events, like where it's like 286 or 287. Those are not like those are a little more spaced out. Those are the good ones.
But
usually.
when a fight comes along, like most Conor McGregor fights I watched, when it was a fight like Conor versus Floyd Mayweather, I watched.
Yeah.
Most of the Jake Paul fights I've watched. Like when there's certain ones that get outside of the sport, then it reaches me.
Yeah.
It's like I follow them on social media and stuff. I obviously follow SportsCenter, ESPN. So like certain fights get out of the fighting sphere and they'll reach me. It would have to be a really, really big fight for me to pay and watch on my own.
Yeah.
Like that's just not going to happen.
There are certain
they're expensive and I don't actually care. I can just wake up in the morning and see the highlights.
Yeah, my buddies and I used to watch most of them. These days I'll only watch a fight. There's still a few fighters that like the one thing about UFC that's also good is you get attached to fighters and it becomes heartbreaking. I mean, I liked Ben Askren a lot when he finally got his UFC deal and he won his first fight somehow. And then the very next fight, we were all excited and he got flying kneed instantly.
That was the Masvidal fight? That was only his second UFC fight.
Yeah. Well, he was fighting in like a different UFC, not UFC, like a different MMA league. It was like one or whatever.
The one belt.
Yeah, and he was like undefeated or whatever. He was really good. But you fall in love with guys, and then they get knocked out, and it's heartbreaking. You find the next guy, like right now, I still love John Jones. He's still around, and he's still beating everybody. But the guy I really like right now is this guy, Bo Nickel, because my roommate in college, he was a wrestler, so he got me into college wrestling a little bit as well. And this guy, Bo Nickel, was a 3-time national champion. I think either 3 or 4-time national champion in college, undefeated, never lost. One of the best collegiate wrestlers of all time. And I quickly in UFC, when you first get into UFC, you fall in love with the guys that fight on their feet, the Conor McGregors and such. You quickly learn that you need to fall in love with the guys that like to grapple, because those guys win. If you fall in love with a guy that cannot grapple, unless he's a heavyweight, sometimes those heavyweights can get away with it. But in the lower divisions, you rarely see it in my experience. I mean, there's a reason that McGregor kept getting suffocated by Khabib, because guess what? They take him down, they push him against the chain link fence, and then they drown them for 5 rounds. So this Bo Nickel guy, one of the greatest collegiate wrestlers, and my buddy and I were always like, if this guy ever goes to UFC, he's going to be an issue. And then sure enough, he went on like the UFC show that you go on to try and get there, and he was dominating. And then he got to the UFC, and he's finished his first 2 fights within a minute or 2, just submitting guys. And that's been a lot of fun to watch. I love watching a guy who thinks he's hot stuff, but like if you get taken down by this dude, who is like one of the most prolific wrestlers ever, there is nothing you can do about it. You are going to get submitted. And that's why rooting for the wrestlers is fun. It's a lot safer.
Yep. That's what so I always listen to the Nick Bear podcast every week. I don't know, do you listen to it every week,
I'm
Jason?
a few weeks behind, but I did.
Yeah, he's rocking the shirt. So every Monday, that's my to and from work. I listen to it and on runs till I'm through the episode. Then I just go find other things to listen to. Well, this week he had Gary V's trainer on. A lot of fascinating stuff in there. But one of the fascinating things is he was talking about he went and he got an internship at this gym called Westside Barbell. I had never heard of Westside Barbell, but apparently it's like where the strongest men in the world lift.
Oh boy.
And so it's like guys who, like, apparently cops, this guy on the interview said cops won't go near this gym because everyone in there is just really bad dudes, like, and they're the strongest men in the world. Like, when he emailed the guy that ran it, the guy responded back and said, our weakest man squats 800 pounds. What can you do for us? And he basically responded back. He said his response back was, I don't care. I'll outwork all of you. I'll run circles around you, or something like that. And then the guy called him and gave him the internship. Anyways, he went there and he was explaining like their whole workout regimen, and it was ridiculous. They worked out 11 times a week and all this stuff. And so he did that. Then he took it back to his college and started a powerlifting club at his college. And then he did that for like years, and he was building a personal training business along it. And he was he wanted to deadlift 4 times his body weight. So he was like I think he said he was 132 or 140 or something like that.
He's a little guy.
Yeah, but he just wanted to be really strong for that. And so 4 times your body weight, I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, I don't know how ridiculous it is in powerlifting. He was making it sound ridiculous, but I was doing the math, and that's like me lifting 800 pounds.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Right.
Anytime soon.
Yeah.
So he said he worked for a decade towards this goal, and then he did it. And when he did it, he's like, I'm done. Like, he'd put his body through all this. It sucked. And so, but he built a whole business around powerlifting. So he was kind of scared to leave powerlifting. But he realized, like, people just wanted his wealth of knowledge. They didn't care if he was a powerlifter or not anymore. They just wanted what he knew. And so he decided he still wanted to work out and stuff. So he went into jiu-jitsu training.
Dude,
so
I want to do jiu-jitsu so bad. So cool.
So that's what he said. He emailed he hired a personal trainer to write him a program, and then the guy had him go to just like a jiu-jitsu class. And he said he walked in, and again, this is straight from, he just lifted 4 times his body weight. So he's one of the like strongest pound for pound guys you can probably ever find.
They probably tossed him around.
Well, he said he walked in and they just paired him up with this dude who was just like a little bigger than him, but not muscular at all.
Yeah.
Chubby. He said looked out of shape. Like, he was basically out of breath as he walked onto the mat. It seemed like he was just out of shape. And so he's thinking, he has a bunch of ego coming in. He's like, this isn't gonna go well for this guy. Like, I'm about to destroy him. And he said the dude was still breathing through his nose when I had to tap out. Like, he did not break a sweat. He did not get like, he was more out of breath walking on the mat than submitting me. And he's like, and that's when I realized I've got to learn this fighting style.
Jiu-jitsu is awesome.
That's crazy.
I love it. I would totally get into it. I'm scared because I'm like one of the least flexible humans on this planet. So
Yeah.
like for you to submit me, all you got to do is push my hamstring just a little bit further than I'm like, I got to tap out or this thing's going to snap in half. So I think I need to do like a year of yoga before I ever consider jujitsu. But man, is it cool. I love jujitsu.
Yeah, I've talked to Brad about it, but I have a bad back. I had surgery last year, so that's what so I'm the same way. Like if I ever got into it, I'd have to work a few months beforehand just to get flexibility back because of my back. But I would, the idea of it is good.
Yeah.
Self-defense as well, if nothing else.
Martial arts is just cool.
Strength, all those things, yeah.
Yeah, I never did martial arts growing up. A lot of people.
I did karate.
Yeah, a lot of people got into like karate and
that was
taekwondo
not
and stuff.
functional. It was just.
Yeah. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has definitely become like one of the more popular ones just because how effective it is. I mean, and even in like in MMA, like that's where a lot of the guys go into is they work on that stuff because there's just a lot of submissions you can do. And there's been these UFC fighters that will like lay on their back and wait for guys to go down to them. Like, come on, like get in the kitchen because it's super effective.
I love those videos of like there'll be a guy like my size going up against like a 350-pound like bodybuilder and just like demonstrate the power of jiu-jitsu and stuff, and then the guy my size or even like smaller than me will just like hop on this guy and choke him out no time. Like it's not even hard.
They just know how to get you in chokes and holds like so easily, and then when they lock them in, they're so strong. And they jiu-jitsu, I feel like you find a lot of these holds and chokes that you just can't. Unless you know how to slip them, you cannot defend them just with sheer strength because they use your body against you. And when you're wearing the gi as well, forget about it. Then they're gonna like collar choke you and stuff like that's you're toast if you don't know what you're doing. Yeah.
The techniques. I mean, you look at it, you don't think they're just rolling around the floor, but it's just technique. You build that technique over and over and have the right leverage on it.
It's pretty cool.
It's wild.
I'd like to get into that. I wonder how long does it take to get to a black belt in jiu-jitsu? I think
there's
Brad,
a guy local who's like one of the highest up ever in Krav Maga, which obviously is different. But he's like one of the. I think he's like an 8th or 9th degree black belt or something crazy. They put a billboard up. It's the only way I know. And he was like one of the first men in the world to get to this level.
I feel like black belt is one of those things. Like, I feel like as an accomplished adult or just like as a person, like there's these certain things that are just like amazing to have as just like an accomplishment or like something almost like it's like having your resume of skills, and black belt in anything is one of them. Like it's like if you're just, and this isn't compared to it, but it's like things like, oh, I'm certified on forklift. Like you just know you have certain skills. Like it's your life side quest resumes.
Yeah.
Like you have like your job experience, and then you have like the skills and certifications that you have. It's like people
like a PDGA rating.
Yeah, there you go. It's like people that can. Another one would be able to write code, like write really good computer code and design websites and stuff. Like those are just like the cool side quest things. I don't feel like I have any of them.
My brother
get some side quests.
I believe a 2nd, maybe 3rd degree black belt in karate.
See, and that's cool.
He got up there. That's when I was doing karate. I already made it to like purple belt.
I've already decided if anybody ever threatens to attack me, I'm going to tell them that I'm a 3rd degree black belt. I'm going to be like, listen, you can do whatever you want, but I'm a 3rd degree black belt. I'm going to break your arm in 3 seconds and just see what happens. Because like they're going to attack me either way, then I might as well put a little fear in them.
Yeah, no,
you never know, just enough.
And then you're making it where they can tell a cool story. If they knock you out, be like, dude, I knocked out.
Yeah, that's all I want really is give them a cool story. Yeah, I don't know. One time I almost got certified in Microsoft Excel in college. I took like an advanced course on Microsoft Excel, and I got really good at it. I knew how to do so many things. And they were like, at the end of this class, you can take a certification, and like that's really cool for your resume. And I was like, that is really cool. Like, I'd love to do that. And they're like, it'll be $90. And I was like, I have no money. No, thank you. So that was the end of that dream.
I took a few of those like LinkedIn certification things.
I do. Yeah, I had a social media marketing certification through this program. We did this in one of my classes, so that was on my LinkedIn. I think it expired, so I'm a fraud now. And then I had another marketing or something certification. It was through HubSpot Academy.
Yeah, HubSpot.
Yep. We did those as part of our classes, and then I think they expired just the end of the last year, and now I'm just rogue again.
Just go join the Air Force. You'll spend years doing that because we have to do cyber training every year or those. So I have the same way. When you guys talk about the certification, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's bringing back a little PTSD of having to go through computer-based training stuff. So between Microsoft Office, between different information assurance stuff, between trafficking in human persons, which I didn't even know what trafficking in human persons was until we had to take the CBT for the Air Force. Between combat skills training, all this other
you
kind
got
of
all
stuff,
kinds of you got all kinds of side quests. I mean,
what do you miss the most?
What do I miss the most? I'm gonna be very transparent. The pay. So I was an officer, so I had the pay and medical, which go kind of hand in hand.
That's fair.
Hey,
and as odd as it sounds,
that's our tax-paying dollars going to work.
For sure. The other one, let's see. The other one is that I would miss for sure. Getting to travel around is good because we loved living in a lot of places. But the last one would be, as odd as it sounds, since I get to let my hair and facial hair grow, this takes work. Like we talk about, my showers used to be, we used to do what's called a combat shower because like when you're deployed, you literally would turn the water on, get wet, turn it off, lather up. So literally you take a shower in like less than a minute.
Yeah.
And with this and this, the showers are a little bit longer than a minute now.
As an officer, what in your field, what was the ranking system? Is it the same as the other?
So all four services are for officers are the same. It's 01 through 010. They're called slightly different, but in the Army and the Air Force, it's second lieutenant, which is 01, first lieutenant, captain, major, lieutenant colonel, 05, colonel 06, then brigadier general, major general, lieutenant general, and this general, which is 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, and 4 star. I retired as a lieutenant colonel, so I was in 05. So right in the middle.
That's pretty cool.
No, I'm happy. I was thankful when you're young, your goal is to make 05 because because responsibility means you've done well enough to not get fired, basically.
Yeah.
And so
that's pretty cool. Wait, so what was 06?
06 is colonel, full bird colonel. You'll hear full bird colonel or colonel that's unique because I'm a lieutenant colonel, which was a silver leaf.
Yeah.
But you would just be called colonel.
At what point? So what point do you get to captain? Which one was it?
Captain's at 4 years. So it's automatic. In the Air Force, it's basically an automatic promotion at 4 years. They basically say, is this guy?
Oh, so
should we not promote him?
Captain's nothing.
But captain in the Navy, captain is nothing. You're right. For Air Force. Army captains are leading hundreds of guys into combat, so it is different.
So you want to be a general though.
Yeah, that's
a big dog.
But in the Navy, a captain is an 06. So and captains are captains of ships as well. When you think about how the Navy does their life, the captain who's an 06 is in charge of a ship. And even if there's generals on board or admirals, as they're called in the Navy, he's still in charge of that ship because the Navy's different because captains and officers are gods in the Navy because of they're at boats or ships for months on end. And so it's a different world for sure. They have officers' mess, and we got to go on a couple of boats, and literally the flooring would change, and the handrails changed to nicer handrails. So the enlisted crew knew they were in an officers' area, and they needed to be careful. It was a different dynamic because they live this world when they're out in the ship for months on end, and they don't get a break from each other. So there's certain areas they can't.
So how long of your service time were you an officer?
The entire time. So I got commissioned. I graduated from University of Alabama from ROTC and got commissioned on my graduation day. So all 24 years I was an officer. So
how about that?
It was good. I enjoyed it. I'm thankful for it for sure. It led me to here. So we lived in North Dakota. We lived in Colorado. We lived in Georgia. We lived in Florida. Disney hardcore. Lived in Germany for 3 years.
Yeah, so. I've seen before. You can look up. Obviously, since it's the taxpayers' dollars, it's transparent, but you can see the military pay scales, and it's fascinating to see these huge charts and how it increases, and then you can see if you serve for 25 or 30 years, you can make it to this end, but these people come in here. It's crazy.
It's public record. You can see what any officer and enlisted guy makes 100%, and it does cap out for a lieutenant colonel. At 22 years, I was not getting promoted. I wasn't making any more pay raises. Yeah. But you can retire but then just generals can go up to 30 or 32 years and get 75% retirement. So that's pretty good for them. So
wow. Yeah, that's insane.
It's wild.
That's crazy.
But it's a different world. I had a memory pop up on Facebook the other day because one of my last jobs was being part of an academic program, and we held an orientation every summer in D.C. And we got to go to the Capitol building during that time. So I have a photo of me in a suit, at the Capitol building, and then look at me now. It was very different. So I was like, wow, so I don't remember that guy anymore.
On your uniform, how many metal things do you have on there?
27 or something. So ribbons.
We need show and tell. I want to see all this stuff. That's what I'm saying.
I'll have to find one from my retirement ceremony. So because I deployed a few times. So when the war kicked off in 2003, it was chaotic. So I deployed 3 times in 5 years. And so when you deploy, you just get a lot of stuff, like combat medals and whatnot.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of it's fluff, but it's still,
hey,
it still looks good. It's better than having a couple rows. And this is going to sound really bad, but how we could tell if somebody had deployed or not was if you had like 2 rows. I'm as a major in 04 who'd been in 12 years, right? If you only had 2 rows of ribbons, like, oh, you've never deployed, have you? Sorry. Like, because I would argue up to 3 or 4 ribbons. That's kind of the joke, because you get a lot of other stuff for just combat service medal and global war and terrorism medal and the Iraq campaign medal and all these other things that you get for. They're kind of just given out a little bit. A few of mine I'm happily earned. Like, I have a few that I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely earned that for my time in Iraq, right?
Yeah.
But some of them are just like, okay, you deployed, so here you go. But yeah, I'll find a photo and show you guys from my retirement ceremony. So.
Nice.
That's crazy.
It's cool.
It's a different world for sure. Like when Elizabeth and I talk about it, I was like, wow, now I work at Foundation. But like a little over a year and a half ago, I was still in the Air Force. So
I didn't realize it was that recent, your retirement.
Yeah, I retired on May 27th of last year. And then the way retirement, because that was my retirement ceremony. I didn't actually retire until July 31st. But then I signed out of the Air Force on June 10th. That's because I had all this leave or holiday time. So we call it leave. Had leave built up close to 60 days. So even after my retirement ceremony, I was still active duty, getting full active duty pay. So even when I started at Foundation, I technically was still working for the Air Force. So I started Foundation on June 27th or something of last year. So yeah, it was pretty recent.
When you retire from the military, do you have to sign a lot of things saying that you won't spill our government secrets?
So you do that as you go through as you get classified, as you get your security clearance. So like I retired with the top secret SCI, which is like a lot of people have that, but then you get read into deeper programs. And whenever you get read into those, you sign NDA saying like 75 years, you can't talk about this. So you have to sign those things when you get read into those programs. And so
awesome. Is that scary? Like having knowledge like that, where you're like, if I slip up,
not that much. So I thankfully the stuff the knowledge I had, I was always within that world. So I worked in SCIFs, secure compartmentalized information facilities. Basically, we could talk openly classified information.
Okay.
And so yeah. I don't have anything that's like super cool. It's mostly knowledge of operations as they were happening.
That makes sense.
So you were never like given secrets that you were like, oh my gosh, I have a few, how am I going to take this to the grave?
I have a few that are really cool. They're like whatever, like IT related stuff. Like basically like the stuff you see on TV really does happen in the IT world, right? Crazy stuff like manipulating microphones and manipulating cameras long distance and stuff. So it was some of the stuff we got read in on because I was a cyber guy or IT guy, communications, what it was called. So that's what I did most of my career. In my last 6 of my last 9 years, I was doing special ops staff support. So I was never on the ground, but supporting the guys on the ground. And we were in Germany the same way. We had a lot of crazy things happen in Africa. Like one time an embassy was surrounded by protesters and the guy was on the roof calling us saying, hey, you may need to come get us because we're surrounded by...
What I feel like, what year is that?
It was 2013. Wait, let me think. I went to Germany 2010, so it was spring of 2013. Spring 2012 is it's called the Arabic Spring. If you go look up Arabic Spring, we started. I feel
like it was covered on news.
It was. So I even had this one crazy stretch. I was thinking about this morning, which was random because I saw that photo, and basically. The Arabic Spring was happening. We were going after Gaddafi in Libya. Yeah. And we actually started shooting T-LAMs. And like I went to work one day. I was working the afternoon shift. And Elizabeth will tell you the story. Like I went to work because I was working like 12 o'clock, and then I didn't come home the next morning. And like Elizabeth had to call work because I got pulled into the operations center to start consolidating information. It was kind of wild, but they literally were shooting T-LAMs, and so I started creating. I started creating a slide, which sounds very boring, and it was, but I started creating a slide that actually got briefed to the president. 100%.
Wow.
Like I created, what? Like I never briefed the president, but it was basically battle damage assessment and stuff that happened while we were doing things in Libya. So
that would have been.
But it was stressful because I was a major who
Obama saw your slide.
Yep. So and it was because General Ham, who was the
awesome.
The AFRICOM commander, would brief that to the president every day, and so like we would stay up. I worked for 21 days straight, working anywhere from 15 to 18 hours a night, working the mid shift because operations happened at night, consolidating all this information, putting it on a few slides, and we had one single summary slide that we gave to General Ham. And then literally the next morning, I'm sitting with a 3-star as he's updating the slide, making sure it looks right. And then they go brief General Ham, and then General Ham would send it to the president. But it was wild. Like, and they would see a version of my slide get put on CNN, like 100%.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
But the name we gave myself was Slum, the Senior Leader Update Manager. Okay. You'd make funny names. Like, so I was the slum because I spent every night just consolidating data for battle damage assessment because we were dropping bombs.
Did you have a cool military call sign?
No, I never earned a call sign. I wasn't a pilot, so I never earned a call sign.
You have to be a pilot.
Yeah, it's in. You
or in like
have
a task force or something like that.
On the Air Force side, it's pilots, and if you work in that world, you'll get call signs. But I never got a call sign.
Who is like the? Did you know like pilots had really cool call signs? Like, is there one that you were like remember like, oh, that guy had a really cool one?
I have the worst memory. There was probably a few cool ones, but I can't think of any. There were ones like silly ones like cheese. Because someone who really liked cheese or smoke, but not big in a good way because they actually caught a fire or something when they were a lieutenant at flight training. Yeah. Often the call sign is actually a negative thing. Not like Maverick, cool. You're really cool. It's like, no, Maverick was not good in that instance. But they just they accept it. So
that's funny. That makes sense. I feel like that's how you would end up getting call signs. I mean, I remember like in the Top Gun movie, I mean, my favorite one ever was Goose and Rooster. Like those ones were sick to me. I thought they were funny. And then there was one I think in the newer movie there was one that was like Payback or something. I think that was pretty cool. But then some of them were just stupid. But I like cheese. That's good stuff right there.
Cheese was not. Yeah. In most of my time, I didn't spend around a lot of fire pilots, and even them in their day-to-day life, sometimes they used the call sign, but most of the time they didn't. So.
Makes sense.
You heard it here first. It's not like the movies. What's that? Wait, no. So, like, I'm sure you've seen both the Top Gun movies. Oh, yeah. Are there things that you can identify from those movies that are gross misconceptions about the Air Force?
Well, those are Navy-based movies.
I guess right. They are the Navy flyers. But is there military misconceptions that you?
I would say in the second movie, we loved Top Gun Maverick. It was fantastic. We went and saw it last summer, and so there's very little. I mean, I would say they probably take some liberties for sure, but I think a lot of it is fairly accurate from what I know of the flying world. So I don't know the flying world. A TV show that is fairly accurate is on Netflix called The Diplomat.
Okay.
And it has Kerry Russell in it, where she's basically becomes ambassador. So we're talking about big government stuff, an ambassador to London for the to England for the U.S. And Elizabeth and I watched that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is one of the most realistic representations of governmental work in other military in other locations, because it wasn't military focused, but when you work in a combatant commands, like regional combatant commands like AFRICOM, the headquarters for all Africa related stuff, most of what you do is Department of State related, not really military related. It's diplomatic related. And so you get into this whole new world of, wow, how the Department of State works. So if you want to see a movie that's not quite military, but very like realistic, like accurate with how they talk about ambassadors and relationships, The Diplomat. It may be very boring to some people, but I was entranced. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so, like, everything about it was what I learned when I was at AFRICOM and SOCOM, because it's about the diplomatic side of working with other countries. So
were you in Africa, or were you?
I never went to Africa. So AFRICOM headquarters is in Germany, Stuttgart, Germany. And
so is that why you were sent to Germany, or were you already in Germany?
That's why I went to Germany to work at AFRICOM, in the J3, a Joint Task Force location. And then in Germany, I was moved to Special Operations Command Africa, which focuses on the units that are down in Africa. So but I went to Germany specifically to work for Africa Command, United States Africa Command. I never went to Africa. Had a couple opportunities, but I was glad not to go. Have a lot of cool trinkets from Africa at my house. If you guys ever come over, that the kids who would go down to Africa would bring back for me. But I'm okay with not going to Africa. The stories there where it was the stories are fairly accurate. How about that? So because we weren't going to tourist locations. The military guys weren't going to tourist. The closest tourist location they're going to was Kenya, and there's still plenty of bad places in Kenya. But they were going to Uganda, and they're going to Nigeria, and they're going to Niger, and not to me South African trips because we didn't need to do diplomacy down there, but there's other places they did. So
I think I went to Zambia, and I went on a safari in Botswana. I'm trying to think where else we were mainly in Zambia though. It was great.
Yeah,
that's fantastic there. That was a very touristy area. Because we were doing sports ministry. Okay. We were actually putting in a disc golf course for a like sports complex. So where that was very off the beaten path. It was like back in villages. They called it the bush. And it was funny because we went and did like a clinic at a church to teach people how to play disc golf. And we showed up, and it was like the only event going on in this village. And so people told us like, hey, there might be 100 kids that come. We show up, no one's there. And I was asking our translator, I was like, hey, what's going on? He's like, well, it starts in a little bit and everyone's always late. He's like, so they'll be here soon. He's like, you're going to see why it's called the bush though. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, on the other side of all these bushes, that's the village. And he said, it's called the bush because like it just looks like bush, but there's villages there basically. And he's like, everyone's just going to come through those bushes. And I was like, what? Like, well, there's a road right here. We just walk down. And sure enough, like every few minutes, kids just started pouring out of the bushes. Like it looked like nothing was there. And then kids just started pouring out. And we taught them how to play disc golf. We just had an end of a traveler basket, taught them how to play, told them where the sports ministry camp was that we just put the disc golf course in, and it's still there. They've actually went back and built it up more. Yeah, but then my brother went to Rwanda and Uganda. Yeah. He went to Africa multiple times. Because Rwanda's where the genocide. Yeah. Yeah, so that's what they were doing. A lot of there's still recovery work and stuff going on. Because there's a movie, Hotel Rwanda. Hotel Rwanda, that's where my brother was. He wasn't where the movie was, but he was in that area serving the people there. And we got back and he showed us the movie Hotel Rwanda, and he was like, "This is so accurate of like what it's actually like there." That was crazy.
I've still never left the country.
You still haven't?
No, I've never left the country.
That's okay.
I've seen a lot more of the country after this summer, especially. Yeah. I've seen the Pacific Ocean. That's cool. Yeah.
Here's what I'll say.
England is my number one bucket list. That's the first place I'm going.
Zion National Park is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen, period.
Hey, people, listen, there are a lot of people who, and I can say this confidently after getting to the West Coast, and I love our East Coast, and it is beautiful in a lot of places, but when you're talking about exotic nature and beauty, I think you gotta have to go a little west, right? Because there's a reason that people who travel the globe say that America is one of, if not the most beautiful country out there, because there are some places that are just mind-boggling out there.
I've been to Yellowstone and Zion, and I also went to the Grand Teton National Park next to Yellowstone, and I don't know. There were some places in China that were kind of mind-blowing, but a lot of it was like artificial beauty, like the Great Wall, obviously, mind-blowing.
Yeah. We've got some crazy nature.
Beijing in general was crazy.
Yeah.
But then like I got to see Victoria Falls in Africa, wild. But like the Niagara Falls blows your mind in another way too. Right. But Victoria Falls is a whole different scale. But Niagara Falls,
we get half of those.
Right. Yeah, we get half. You can see.
It's North America though.
You can see both halves.
North America.
When you get to like Old Faithful and Yellowstone and some of the mountains out west, you got to witness that in like Portland and stuff. Yeah. Like I haven't seen anything.
No, it was awesome.
Anything like that.
I mostly want to go. Honestly, I want to go to Europe for the tourist side of things. Yep. You know, I'm fascinated in. I want to see the sports out there. That's a big reason. I want to see some soccer in Europe, but I'd love to go to like Rome and see, the ruins and stuff like that.
I did a marathon. One of my marathons was in Rome.
And I like I just like the architecture too, and just like the culture. I like getting immersed in like the food culture and stuff like that.
Well, as a Christian, going to in the Middle East obviously is getting scarier and scarier to travel to. That's not going to really ever change. But I had the chance to go. I went to Turkey, Greece, Rome. And it's just a tourist trip. Right.
Yeah.
But basically, the trip I was on we were walking Paul's. I think it was his second missionary journey. We went and got to visit all of those places. And it was a similar thing of like the Great Wall of China, where seeing the like Ephesus and Corinth and stuff like that, they're obviously in modern day. I think Ephesus is modern day Turkey. Yeah. And Corinth is in Greece. So there's modern day names for them. But walking the ruins, that you can still walk there. And
I love that stuff.
It was mind-blowing. One place I've always wanted to go, I've never gotten to, I don't know if I ever will get to, is Israel. Because a lot of my friends have been to Israel, and they've talked about that.
I had a bunch of friends go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One, I was at a church, a local church. It was a Heritage Baptist. I used to go to Heritage, and the pastor there, I'm trying to think there was some type of, I think it was between Iran and Israel, but there was some type of almost a war. It was like on the verge, and they'd taken a trip there. And so the church community here was obviously worried because the pastor's over there and a bunch of people from church were over there. And he like had a video that he ended up posting on Facebook, but he was taking a video basically to send to his wife and the church back home, like, hey, look, it's not as scary on the ground here as it seems on the news. Everything's okay. And as he's doing that, a missiles comes in and anti-missile like defenses go off and intercept it behind his head. So he's talking. He's like, it's not as scary as it seems on the news, and you see behind him, and then it blows up in the sky. He just like turned around and looked at it, and then he's like looked back at the camera and stopped the video, and then they showed that because I think they showed it once he got back. He posted it on Facebook when he was there, But when he got back, they like showed it. And at that point, my mom basically put her foot down. You're never going to Israel. So obviously now I can make my own choice, but I have to take my son and wife. So
that's wild. I will say this, because I've lived out west and I've gone to Oregon and Washington State, and that it was all beautiful. But for sure, for Europe, it's the old Europe, because the architecture is the same, so it's beautiful to go through that. But the mountains and the Alps, the Swiss Alps, and the
I've never been there.
Will blow away any mountain you'll see. North America is great because the Smokies is very tree based. Yeah. The West is the Rockies are very high, but when you drive through the Alps, it's
every time I see video of Switzerland, it looks like something that doesn't exist.
Right, like because we would drive down to Italy and would go through Switzerland or go through Austria, because there's two different ways, and like you would drive through and like I'm literally looking at a painting right now, but I'm driving through a painting that was amazing.
My uncle has been to Switzerland like once or twice. One of his favorite places if he leaves the country nowadays, because they travel all over the place. My family never really traveled much. My brother was the one that really got into international travel, and then I would just go on trips with him. Is how I ended up getting to travel so much. My parents do not. They hate flying. They just don't care.
Right.
My uncle, though, my dad's brother, loves to travel. So they went to all over the place, but the place they always end up going back to, and I've never been, is Banff in Canada.
Yeah.
They always say that place is like.
Yeah, I know triathletes who like to go train there and who are based out of there, and so it's similar. Like it's amazing the scenery there could rival it for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but America gets because I think on the East Coast we have a different type of beauty where it's just like it's a very woodsy.
Right.
Well, also like our cities, like if you look at like Paris or a London, they uphold certain standards, I think, for architecture, and like I don't know, at least from what you see, like if you just take a glimpse at New York City, it's not going to like say beauty to you.
No. Well, that's what's interesting.
So I think it's our touristy places like that give us an interesting
What's
rep.
really interesting is all of our cities are much newer. New York is a very historic city, obviously. So it was built pre-car. So it's still a very walkable city.
Yeah.
That's what I noticed over there is like all those cities were built freaking horse and buggy is when they were built. Mm-hmm. But then you get to like LA and big cities more as we expanded
they're
out
spread
west,
out.
They're built post-car or closer to it.
Right.
So they're not walkable by any means.
It's like when you go to Dallas and you're like, so where is the Dallas?
Yeah, Dallas is like I got 30 minutes everywhere.
Right, yeah, it's like, so which one of these is like downtown Dallas? It's like we expect it to be like this clump, and it's not like that at all.
Even downtown Lynchburg was built when it was still like horse and buggy, like
you can walk. I've done it in a video. I've walked from one side to the other. It's very easy.
That's why we were so shocked on the West Coast. I think is the East Coast was obviously the earliest development. And so many of our bigger cities or even small cities like Lynchburg were built early America. Right. And then as we expanded out west, we were obviously also going through like Industrial Revolution and stuff. I don't know how much those two line up, but those big cities out west, by the time they were developed, were much more...
Well, and like Lynchburg was a big railroad stop.
Yeah. Too. And so that's when you get to even Dallas, which isn't that far out west. It's still like there isn't like Charlotte, there is a downtown Charlotte.
Right.
There is just one spot. You see it when you land. It's over there. There's downtown Charlotte. There's Lynchburg. There's Richmond. There's DC. Like there, it's just one spot.
Let's bring back.
Then you
get
to Dallas,
downtowns.
and it's honest. Like you got to drive 25 minutes anywhere you want to go, and you're still in Dallas somehow. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's
25
bizarre.
minutes takes me from Lynchburg to Bedford.
Right.
It's true.
People take for granted.
Let's bring back. The East Coast has some good things about it.
Because that's what we were talking like disc golf wise on the West Coast, and we were out there, and like when we're driving from one spot to the other, on the East Coast you can't drive from Lynchburg to Charlotte and not see anything in between.
Right.
That's all we did on the West Coast. Is we would drive from Boise, Idaho to Twin Falls,
farmland,
Idaho, and there's nothing in between at all. It's just, or especially in California. We drove from Blythe, California to LA, then we drove from LA to Fresno, then we drove from Fresno to San Francisco / San Diego area. And in between all of that, there was nothing.
Right.
Nothing at all. And even Blythe was a blip on, I don't even know why we stayed in Blythe.
Well, because people think of California because they think of LA and San Fran, but California, as you guys saw, is like a lot of nothing.
Yeah, there's nothing out there.
There's a whole lot of
crazy
nothing
populated
out there.
packed cities.
Why do you live in California? If you're listening to this, comment down below. Why are you there? Because
I don't know about why do you live in California. I wouldn't go that far. Why do you live in LA?
That's a good way to put it.
If you don't make more than like $5 million a year, why do you live in LA?
Have you ever Googled how much $800,000 could buy you most places in the country?
Oh my gosh, it was hilarious. We like to do this thing called Zillow sniping when we were on the road, where we would see a house and we would pull up Zillow real quick and see the price. And doing it in LA was our favorite because we'd pass some shack that looks like decrepit and like falling apart.
In today's market in Lynchburg, it would still go for like 75 to 100 grand.
Yeah, and it was like $1 million. It was
yeah,
like
and
$1 million.
Like 950,000, and it just on the I was blown away. I don't understand it.
Right,
pretty awesome.
I was convinced that, I mean, obviously family ties are a big one, I think.
Yeah, if you
the weather
if
was
you grow up out there, like that's excusable, but it's like maybe just fly over here, check out the real estate listings and like just like the price of gas and stuff, and maybe see if you get used to it.
Yeah, so I just found a Instagram, I can't remember her handle, but her shtick is I'm a recovering Californian, and she lives in Tennessee. So she introduced the Californians to sticks of butter and Buc-ee's and cast iron skillets. It's fantastic.
Well, they're all moving to Texas now. That's where they're all going. Do you know there's an exit tax with California?
I've heard of that.
What?
No, they're trying to implement it. I don't know if it's in yet.
I heard I was Sharon Osbourne, what of all people, was on this radio show talking to somebody about how she's going to have to pay taxes to California for a certain amount of years after she left.
It, but I know they were trying
it's an
to.
exit tax,
because a lot of people were going
crazy. You're in prison. Get out of there.
Right. A lot of
people like trying to escape the California border.
Because a lot of people were going to Vegas, because I think Vegas and Nevada have because like Texas, one of the big reasons is there's no state level income tax.
Right. Yeah,
sales tax is higher, but there's no state level income tax. Whereas California has a pretty crazy high. Virginia honestly has a high income tax too.
Yeah.
But California's way up there.
Gosh.
And so that's one of the big reasons to go to Texas, especially in the modern day of remote work, is if you can keep your California job and move to Texas, regardless of if you live in an expensive area, you get like a 10% raise just on not paying state level income tax, which is ludicrous. But that was a big thing, is like California, when people with the exit, there was a bunch of stipulations.
You cannot leave.
I saw a finance guy breaking it down, but there was a bunch of stipulations on it. But yeah, it was essentially you had to like pay a step down each year of the income tax.
Yeah, dude.
It might have been part of it, might have been money that you were making from California. I don't know. It was something crazy.
I don't know.
California, man.
California. They got a cool
knows how
state
to party.
Flag. They got a cool
Rest
state flag.
Rest in peace, huh? What is that? Danny California? You know that song? Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Yeah.
Great song.
Yeah.
All right, let's spin the wheel and see who's on this thing next week. So we have Jason, Brad, Hunter, Trevor, Silas, because Connor will be back, and Connor's obviously the staple. I'm just
He's
in his
the staple. Get absolutely staple.
So
Can I hit 2 shows in a week?
All right. Jason, your name's officially on the wheel.
Fantastic.
I think people are going to love you on the banter. So we
so.
got you on the wheel here. All right, let's see. We've got this wheel loves me. I'm back. Sorry, people.
You get hit every single time.
I haven't missed it. I haven't missed
it.
All right, remove my name.
What are the percentages of getting picked now? How many names are on there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So you got 2 out of 5 chance. So you got what, 40% of getting on?
Well, technically,
is that correct odds?
It'd be 20%. So. 1 out of 5. So if there's 5 names, you have 1 out of 5.
1 out of 5, but we spend it twice. So
now you have a
25% chance now, the second time, of being that name.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
There's math.
Statistics.
You got an okay
right, so
chance
it's
of
me,
getting picked.
Connor, and it's really close to a line. I don't know. Jason.
All right.
Jason, back to back.
Twice in a row.
Trevor,
I'm honestly, I'll see you guys when I see you. I'm happy because Connor will enjoy being on the show with you. I know he'd probably be upset
he's probably
he missed
very
out.
jealous this week.
My wife was very excited because I was watching the end of the banter. She's like, Connor's so excited for you, Jason. I'm like, that's just Connor. He's a good guy. So
there you go. Now you'll get the Connor Jason banter. I'm gonna just be in the audience for. That's gonna be great. The beard.
We'll talk about beards a lot and beard care. So.
We'll call it 2 beards and a bro.
2 beards and a bro.
I don't know why I'm crying, but I yawned. This show it just moved me so much. And all right, well, I'll see you again next week. Trevor won't. Jason will. Connor will be back. That's the show. That's the banter.
Free Trevor.
Oh wait, we have to make a sound.
Connor no, I already know what the sound needs to be.
Good.
Okay.
Because I was telling Connor about this. I think I want us to make our best like spring sound, like a boing, like that one.
You just did a fantastic one.
Listen, well, I didn't even try yet because I was thinking like that's a really good sound that people can make if they try. All right, here we go. Boing.
Now, why'd you cup your mic?
It always helps me think.
Okay.
We'll have to cut my mic then.
Okay, you go for it.
Boing.
Okay, that was
like
a little bit higher pitched.
I think I'm gonna get
Little
my
less
hand
reverb.
involved a little bit.
His room is more absorbent.
That
That was trash.
Dang it!